Live from the studio in Stauffer Flint at the University of Kansas, you're watching KUJH News.
Welcome to KUJH Election Night coverage. I'm Margaret Cagdis.
And I'm Emily Berger.
KUJH will be bringing you election updates at the top of every hour throughout the evening.
We have live crews at various watch parties and campaign headquarters who will be bringing us updates from Missouri and Kansas.
And we'll be taking a look at a variety of issues that are on the ballot in this midterm election.
KUJH has partnered with the University Daily Kansan for all the things election night. Joining us live in studio is Matthew Patillo, the news editor for the Kansan, to tell us their plans for covering the midterm elections. Margaret and Matthew, over to you.
Welcome, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So go ahead and talk to us a little bit about the voter guide.
Right. So the voter guide is something that the Kansan put together. We sent out questionnaires to all the campaigns, all the various people who are running this election cycle. We asked them to fill out some questions that students had asked. We polled students beforehand and be like, which areas do you want to know more about from the candidates? And this is what came out, a 16-page voter guide and an online version too. So if you guys have any last-minute questions about, say, what's going on with the candidates, what do they stand for, this is the perfect place to go look. And you can find this online as well at kansan.com.
Yeah, that sounds really great. Can you also tell us about where your crews are today?
So our crews are currently here in Lawrence. We have crews at Chris Mann and at the Douglas County Commission Election Office, the Douglas County Election Office. We're watching the Douglas County Commission here in Douglas County, but we're also watching an amendment that came up here in Douglas County to expand the commission from 3 people to 5 people. There's been tons about representation in rural Douglas County, which is why this is on the ballot this year. We've also got people in Kansas City watching the Kansas 3rd District House election between Sharice Davids and Amanda Atkins. That one's pretty contentious, and it's going to be a photo finish where that's concerned. We also have people in Topeka. The Republican Party currently is conducting a mass party with all their statewide candidates, and we've also got reporters at Laura Kelly's party.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Matthew. Emily, we're going to head back over to you.
2 amendments are on the ballot in Kansas. Kyle Mathis joins us with what's at stake at the Kansas legislature as well as sheriff's offices around the state.
It's election night, and I'm Kyle Mathis. If you find yourself looking at the ballot and are getting a little confused at the amendments to vote for, I can help explain them a little bit. There are 2 constitutional ballot questions. The first is the Legislative Powers Amendment, Amendment number 1. With the way it works now, if a legislator doesn't like a law, the legislator has the opportunity to override it. Voting yes on this amendment would give the governor less power and allow the legislator to overturn administrative actions of the governor. Patrick Miller is a political science professor. He breaks down the vote.
If you want to restrict local control,
a simple way of understanding this amendment is if you want to vote yes, you can give the legislator more, you can allow the legislator to be more powerful. If you want a traditional checks and balances with the lawmaking process and a gubernatorial veto with a chance to override, then it's safe to say you can vote no. Now, how sheriffs are elected is also on the ballot as well. It's amendment number 2. Currently, the process reflects the electing of a government position. If the amendment passes, it would make part of the Constitution that sheriffs must be elected and can only be removed from office during their term by a district attorney or attorney general.
if you want to restrict local control in the sense that you don't want to give counties the flexibility of choosing how they choose a sheriff, you want to make sure that person's elected, vote yes. If your attitude is more, well, why not have local control? You're okay with that. If a county wants to elect them, that's fine. If they want to hire the sheriff, that's fine. Let the counties choose. If that's your attitude, then a no vote probably fits you better.
This year, Kansas has a U.S. Senator, multiple House of Representatives seats, Governor, Attorney General, Secretary of State, and Kansas Treasurer, as well as representatives in the Kansas Legislature up for grabs. With the controversy of abortion rights in the state, it is important to vote for local officials as they have the power to make those important decisions. With that being said, we hope you understand the constitutional amendments a little better after this, and we hope that you go out and vote. This election affects you a lot more than you think. Now back to you guys, Emily and Margaret.
Thanks, Kyle. Experts are saying early voting could be an important factor in the outcomes of these midterm elections.
Marlon Martinez talked to some people about what's got them to go out voting early.
Apologies for the technical difficulties.
Former Kansas Attorney General Derek Schmidt is running an attempt for governor, leaving his seat vacant.
Former Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach faces off against the trial attorney Chris Mann. Bella Line joins us live at Chris Mann Watch Party.
Thanks, Margaret. We're here at the Chris Mann Watch Party in Lawrence. People haven't started trickling in yet, but it looks like they're preparing for a big turnout. We have CNN streaming live behind us as the votes are coming in and being counted. We will be back at 7 o'clock with another live update. Back to you.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. Marlon Martinez is talking with some people around the city about voting early.
The Douglas County Elections Office is expecting thousands of voters on Election Day. Many, like Renita Ubel, took advantage of early voting.
I want to get it over with. If I broke my leg the day before Election Day, then I wouldn't be able to vote. So I want to come and be sure I get it in.
According to NBC's News live updates on the midterm elections, as of October 31st, over 90,000 Kansans had already casted their votes by mail-in or in person. Ubel says she is happy to exercise her right to vote.
It's our right and our privilege and our civic duty. So all of those things. There are a lot of people in places in the world that don't even pretend to have a say, and we can have one.
The seat for Kansas governor, attorney general, and Senate are among many of the races in this year's midterm election. With many of the different issues on the ballot, Ubel encourages students to go out and vote.
They have as much a right to decide who their governor is going to be as any old person.
Reporting in Lawrence, Kansas, Marlon Martinez, KUJH.
Thank you for watching our 6 o'clock update.
We'll see you back here live at 7.
Live from the studio in Stauffer Flint at the University of Kansas, you're watching KUJH News.
Welcome back to KUJH's continuous election night coverage. I'm Catherine Galliani.
And I'm Kyle Mathis.
We are in hour 2 of our coverage following several of the races in Missouri and Kansas.
We have live crews in various watch parties and campaign headquarters.
We begin the 7 o'clock hour with Ciro on the impact of Kansas's gerrymandering.
We will also take a look at the National Guard troops that are activated around the country to provide cyber election support.
Joining us live is Hannah Nystrom, who is a reporter for the Kansan. Hi, Hannah. Tell us about what's going on at the Atkins Watch Party.
Hi, Catherine. I just got here. I'm at the Sunflower Ballroom at the Topeka Capitol Plaza for the KSGOP party. Right now, people are just starting to fill in. It started at 7, so we still have some time, and we're expected to go until late this evening.
Awesome, Hannah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kansas recently redrew the boundaries for the congressional districts. KUJH's Ciro Aseo spoke to a KU law professor about the impact it has to voters.
Gerrymandering is the drawing of new political boundaries to give your party a numeric advantage over an opposing party. In May, the Kansas Supreme Court approved the state's new political boundaries. Lawrence is now part of the 1st District, which is primarily rural western Kansas bordering Colorado and Nebraska. The city and the county in which it's located will make up 13% of the 1st District beginning next year. It's the biggest municipality in the district. Why does gerrymandering matter? I spoke to KU law professor Richard Levy to discuss the advantages one party might gain from redrawing their political boundaries.
It's not unconstitutional to gerrymander so as to favor the Republican Party over the Democratic Party or the Democratic Party over the Republican Party.
Professor Levy suggests that the congressman who represents Lawrence, regardless of his or her party, will have an outsized influence on federal resources and owe constituents here time and attention. The state legislators who supported the gerrymandered map figured that breaking off Lawrence from other more suburban districts would not only silence voters here, but make competing for those voters unimportant. Back when the state Supreme Court upheld the state's new congressional districts, Kansas State President Ty Masterson, Vice President Rick Wilborn, and Majority Leader Larry Alley issued this statement. They wrote, "In this case, following a lengthy and deliberative process, the legislator listened and took input from Kansans and enacted a set of maps that are fair for all and are consistent with the historical recognized redistricting guidelines. Doesn't seem fair for Lawrence that given the size of the 1st District, the difference in their views, and the potential for lack of representation due to being largely a rural area, regardless of the congressional race outcome, the 1st District congressman better properly represent Lawrence citizens starting next year." I'm Ciro Aseo, and this is KUJH News.
Thanks, Ciro. Hopefully Lawrence residents' votes continue to be a factor and push for change within the state of Kansas.
Let's head over to Anna with more information about the National Guard and the election.
Catherine, National Guard troops are activated in 12 states to provide cyber election support. A spokesperson for the Defense Department says more than 90 guardsmen were called up. They'll focus on various issues including network assistance and protection and risk mitigation. Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Louisiana, North Carolina, and West Virginia are among some of the states receiving help. The National Guard says it provided cyber support to 8 states during the election primaries in May and June of this year. Now headed back to Bella live at Marcelli's, where she will give us an update as votes start to come in.
Thanks, Anna. As you can see, a few more people have trickled in over the last hour. Chris Mann supporters anxiously await results as polls just closed at 7. We'll have more for you back at the 8 p.m. update.
Thanks, Bella, and thank you for watching our 7 o'clock update.
We will be right back here at 8 o'clock for more election coverage on KUJH News.
Live from the studio in Stauffer Flint at the University of Kansas, you're watching KUJH News.
Welcome back to our live KUJH election updates. I'm Sierra Aseo.
And I'm Matthew Allen.
Entering the third hour of this election night, we finally have some polling results. As
of right now, the leader in Kansas's governor race is Derek Schmidt with 51.3% of the votes, as Laura Kelly trails with 46.1%. Senate race is led by Moran with 65.4% of the votes so far, while his opponent Moran has 32.6%.
The four leaders in the Kansas House race are Tracy Manning leading the 1st District, Jake LaTurner in the 2nd District, Sharice Davids in the 3rd District, and Ron Estes in the 4th District.
We will also take a live look at the Chris Mann Watch Party with Anna Ambrose and Catherine Galliani.
We're going live at the Sharice Davids Watch Party with Bhavya Gupta of the University Daily Kansan.
You can go.
Hi, I'm at the Sharice Davids Watch Party, and just shortly before the party started, Representative Sharice Davids had given a small speech to a crowd attending the party, and the crowd responded with lightheartedness and hopeful remarks with applause and laughter. The ambiance felt relatively calm and exciting and hopeful as the attendees mingled amongst one another, waiting for the watch party to begin. Once it did begin at 7 p.m. when the polls closed in Kansas, the attendees filed in, and Senator Ethan Corson had come and spoke about the campaign and how many of those who were in attendance at the party helped to knock on doors and campaign and donate to Sharice Davids' campaign as well. And his speech also seemed hopeful, and overall the atmosphere is really hopeful and exciting.
With midterm election counts in full swing, First Amendment law professor Mark Johnson shares what's at stake this election.
The Republican Party is in a strong position going into the midterm elections. A CNN survey finds that Republicans are more engaged to vote in the elections than Democrats. Popular concerns driving the Republican Party entail the nation's economy or inflation and abortion laws. These concerns could eliminate the Democrats' 8-seat majority in the House of Representatives. First Amendment law professor Mark Johnson explains the importance of holding more seats.
Both houses are so split in a partisan manner that even if you have a very narrow majority, such as what the Democrats have right now, just having that 1 or 2 or 3 seat majority is enough to prevail on votes, even if they're very close, and even if the other party doesn't provide any support whatsoever.
A small majority is crucial for Republicans to make an attempt at pushing their ideal legislation. This would force the president to veto legislation to keep it out of law. I'm Gabriel Lehman, reporting for KUJH News.
Thanks for that information. Now we go to our live look at one of the races with Catherine Galliani.
We're here live at Marcelli's, and as you can see, the place has filled up quite a bit since our last check-in at 7. We're still awaiting results and Chris Mann's arrival. We'll be back with another update at 9 p.m. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Catherine. Michael Jamela joins us to talk about what's happening with the battle with House.
Thank you, Matthew. President Biden and his aides are not expected to be present this election day. The Biden administration is preparing to see the Democrats lose control of the House majority. This election, however, the Democrats are focused on keeping the majority in the Senate. Meanwhile, the Republicans are aiming to even the playing field. With a flip of even one chamber, the entire future of Biden's presidency will be in the hands of the Republicans. Here's more on the subject.
In the final hours of the 2022 midterm campaign, Democrats, including President Joe Biden, asking voters to see this less as a referendum on his presidency and more as a defense against a potentially destructive Republican majority.
Our lifetimes are going to be shaped by what happens the next year to 3 years. It's going to shape what the next couple decades look like.
Republicans, optimistic voters will blame Democrats for decades-high inflation, pinching Americans every time they go to the grocery store, and other issues hitting households more acutely as the party aims to flip both chambers of Congress.
It'll send a very strong signal to our Democrat colleagues that their policies aren't working, that they'll actually work with us to reduce deficit spending, end their war on fossil fuel, get tough on crime, secure the border.
Republicans also eyeing former President Donald Trump's sway in tight contests like the U.S. Senate race in Ohio, where Trump stumped Monday night as the former president flirts with announcing a 2024 bid.
You're going to vote for an incredible slate of true American first Republicans up and down the ballot.
But Democrats also see the talk of another Trump run as a motivator for their voters, especially women.
When we fight, we win.
Vice President Kamala Harris crisscrossing the country to campaign with women candidates in the home stretch, centering a closing message against Republicans' restrictive abortion and voting rights proposals, two issues Democrats hope will make a difference.
With Donald Trump officially declaring his bid for 2024, the time to vote has never been more present. According to CNN, more than 45 million voters have cast their ballots before Election Day, outpacing pre-election day voting during the 2018 midterms. Election officials expect tens of millions more voters to have hit the polls today. Voting rights advocates say it has been a smooth start. As of nighttime, in the studio, this is Maisha Jamila reporting for KUJH. Back to you, Cyril and Matthew.
That was your 8 o'clock update regarding the Kansas elections, and thank you for watching.
KUJH's election updates will be back here at 9 o'clock.
Live from the studio in Stauffer Flint at the University of Kansas, you're watching KUJH News.
Welcome back to KUJH's continuous election night coverage. I'm Bella Line.
And I'm Jessica Joseph.
We are following several of the races in Missouri and Kansas.
We have live crews at various watch parties and campaign headquarters.
We begin the 9 o'clock hour with Abigail Moore from the University Daily Kansas joining us live.
We will also take a look at cybersecurity concerns across the country.
The Douglas County Democrats are hosting their own watch party tonight. UDK's Abigail Moore joins us live.
Hi, yeah, so I'm at the Democratic Party here in Lawrence, and right now the vibes are amazing, spirits are high, everyone's having so much fun, and not only are they keeping an eye on Chris Mann and Patrick Kelly, but they're keeping an eye on everyone who's Democratic across the slate. And really, everyone is like very excited. They're very optimistic, and everyone seems to be having a great night. And they're cheering for everything. All the amendments, all the Democratic candidates, they're very excited to be here tonight.
That's great. Thanks, Abigail.
National Guard troops are activated in 12 states to provide cyber election support. A spokesperson for the Defense Department says more than 90 guardsmen were called up. They'll focus on various issues including network assistance and protection and risk mitigation. Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Louisiana, North Carolina, and West Virginia are among some of the states receiving help. The National Guard says it provides cyber support to 8 states during the election primaries in May and June of this year.
Governor Laura Kelly is facing Derek Schmidt in a close race tonight. University Daily Kansas correspondent Ren Drummond joins us live with an update.
I'm here at Laura Kelly's campaign party in Topeka. Morale is very high. David Tolan came in about 25 minutes ago and gave his grand entrance and his speech. There was lots of clapping, lots of cheering. Laura Kelly's in the lead right now, which is just keeping everyone super excited, but we still have a long night ahead of us.
Thanks, Ren. We'll have more from the UDK as the race continues.
As voting took place today, some voters had to deal with the frustration of being intimidated at the polls. After a contentious election season, more incidents of alleged voter intimidation coming to light as Election Day arrives on Tuesday in North Carolina. Election officials saying there have been 15 incidents of alleged voter intimidation since the start of early in-person voting.
The incident reportedly included some from outside of the County Board of Elections shooting video as materials were being brought in from early voting sites. In one situation where an election worker was followed from the voting site to the election office and then to their neighborhood. Officials say while the number of incidents may be about the same as they were during the spring midterm elections, those documented during the current election may be more intense.
They're still working to determine if any of the incidents should be investigated. Now, Catherine joins us live with an update from the Chris Mann Watch Party in Lawrence.
All right. We're back here live at Marcelli's for your 9 o'clock update. Lots of excitement happening here as people await for more results to come in from the populous counties. We've had many electives address the crowd here as they wait for Chris Mann's arrival. So far, Laura Kelly and Chris Mann are leading the Democrats in Douglas County as far as early voting. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Catherine. Chris Mann is currently ahead for Attorney General with 59% of votes.
With 12% of votes in Kansas, Kansas has started reporting who's ahead in each race.
According to the New York Times, Republican candidate Jerry Moran has won the Senate race with 49.2% of the votes, while Democratic candidate Mark Holland has 48.7% of the reported votes.
For the House of Representatives in District 1 with 12% of the votes in, Tracy Mann leads the race with 55.8%. In District 2, 13% of the votes have been counted. A Democratic candidate, Patrick Schmidt, leads the race with 64%.
District 3 has reported only 1% of the votes, but Democratic candidate Sheriff Davids leads with 70.5%. With District 4 having the highest reported votes with 31%, Ron Estes leads with 55.1% of the votes.
The governor race has reported 14% of votes are in. Incumbent Laura Kelly leads the race with 60.9%, while her opponent, Derek Schmidt, has 37%.
Missouri is not voting on its governor this midterm election, but it is voting on the Senate and House of Representatives.
The New York Times has reported that Trudy Bush Valentine is leading with 59.9% of the reported 7% of votes. Her opponent, Eric Schmidt, holds 38.6% of the votes reported.
District 1 for Missouri is led by Cori Bush with 76.7% of the reported 20% votes. District 2 has 15% of votes in, and Trish Gunby is beating incumbent Ann Wagner with 53.4%.
2% of the votes have been counted in District 3, and incumbent Blaine Ludekemeyer holds 57.7%. And in District 4, Mark Alford is winning with 69.6% of the reported 2% votes.
Finally, in District 5, with 5% of the votes recorded, Emmanuel Cleaver II is leading with 60.4%.
Thank you for watching our 9 o'clock update.
We'll be back here at 10 o'clock for more election coverage on KUJH News.
Is she on? Hello? Can you hear me? Wait. Wait, hold on.
I can barely hear
Hello.
you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Oh, sort of.
Okay, how about now?
I mean, it's just super loud here, so it's not a you
okay.
thing. Yeah. No.
Okay, so I'm gonna start talking about you to cue you.
Live from the studio in Stauffer Flint at the University of Kansas, you're watching KUJH News.
Welcome back to KUJH Election Night coverage. I'm Margaret Cagdis.
And I'm Daisy Bolin.
We'll be having 2 live interviews and an update on issues that candidates have on their platforms.
To close out the show, we'll be giving results updates on the Senate and governor races. First up, Margaret is talking to Matthew Patillo from the University Daily Kansan about the results coming in.
Welcome back, Matthew. Can you give us a little bit of a results update about what's been going on?
Sure. So looking at the whole state right now, what we're seeing is that results are still coming in and we're not seeing any really definitive results. The Associated Press has not called any race in Kansas since Jerry Moran's race. All the parties right now are currently just in a stasis, just waiting for those results to come in. However, locally, we're looking at the county commission race and the ballot measure that I was talking about earlier tonight. Patrick Kelly currently has 83% of the vote, about 8,000 votes. It is very likely that he's going to win that race at this point, unless a miracle happens for Justin Spies, the Republican.
Gotcha. Well, that makes perfect sense. How long are you guys going to be doing election coverage for?
We're going to be here until all the races are called tonight. We want to make sure that students here at KU and people reading across the state really know what's going on, and so we have people across at the parties right now, and we're going to make sure that these people are up to date until there is no more information left tonight.
Cool. Do you have any advice for anyone sitting at home watching the votes come in?
Right now, don't get freaked out about these initial things until something is called. We're still seeing the gaps between the candidates close right now, and so don't preemptively jump saying my candidate has won quite yet.
Gotcha. Well, Matthew, again, thank you so much for being here tonight. We were so happy to have you on the show. Back to you, Daisy.
Thanks for that, Matthew and Margaret. Looks like the local races are closing faster than the national races. Next up, we have Janine Lopez meeting with us live from Adkins, KC.
Hi, I'm here at Amanda Adkins' campaign party. Results all night have been pretty slow. Supporters are definitely starting to dwindle. There's a lot less people here than there was a few hours ago. But Amanda Adkins just came out and spoke and said that no matter what happens, she was very glad that she was able to be the Republican candidate for Kansas 3.
Thank you, Janine.
Up next, here's Matthew with a breakdown of some key issues candidates are spotlighting in the election.
Even in the midst of the 2022 midterm election, it's important to remember that the key issues our candidates are running under. CNN's David Callahan breaks down the issues that drive voters' decisions.
We're taking a look at the issues that are driving voters' decisions in this election. We asked folks in the exit poll, and again, this is preliminary information. We'll get more as the night goes on. What was the most important issue to your vote? Inflation for 32% of the electorate. This is a national look at those showing up to vote today. Interestingly, abortion, 27% of the electorate said it was the most important issue to their vote. That's sort of a closer second than we've seen in a lot of pre-election polling. Crime at 12%, gun policy at the same place, 12%, and immigration down to 10%. But let's dig into that issue number one, inflation. We asked folks, what is the condition of the nation's economy? What you see here is that 3/4 of the electorate, 36% say not so good, poor 39%. Add that together, 75% of the electorate today says thumbs down on the state of the nation's economy. We also asked, has inflation caused harm to your family or hardship to your family? 20% of voters today across the country tell us severe hardship. Another 58% tell us moderate hardship. So that's combined together, nearly 8 in 10 voters are experiencing some kind of hardship. 22% say no hardship. And we asked, how does your financial situation compare to what it was 2 years ago? Sort of the classic political question. 46% of voters in this election across the country are telling us their financial situation is worse than 2 years ago. 35% say about the same. Only 18% say better. And gas prices specifically, as you guys know, the Biden White House has been focused on gas prices every day. Yes, 61% of voters in this election across the country tell us gas prices has been a financial hardship for them. 38% saying no.
Even as we wrap up our broadcast, votes are still being counted and each of these issues are on voters' minds. We urge our viewers to keep an eye on incoming results until they conclude. Back to you, Margaret.
Thanks, Matthew. Now let's take a look at the results of the Kansas elections. Jerry Moran has officially won the senator race and received 56.7% of the 60% reported votes.
The governor race is much closer than the Senate. Laura Kelly is still projected to win and has 53.3% of the 60% of reported votes.
Her opponent, Derek Schmidt, has 44% of the votes.
In Missouri, Eric Schmidt has won the race for the Senate with 56.6% of the votes.
Missouri did not vote on their governor this election.
Thanks for tuning in to KUJH for your election updates.
For more coverage, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter and to visit our website at tv.ku.edu.
Have a good evening.